Here is part 2 to my fall TV show recommendations. If you missed out on part 1, I talked all about TV shows related to Gilmore Girls. Now we're talking about other TV shows that I want you to watch this fall that are all based on books. So let's get into it. We're going to start off with some school themed shows because it's back to school season. Number 1 is Heartstopper. This is based on one of my favorite graphic novels. It's about 2 teenage boys who fall in love, and it is just so cute and heartwarming. Something I love about the show in particular is that we get to know Nick and Charlie's friend group a lot more than we do in the book. Yeah, we just get to see their friends more and see those relationships that they build with all of their friends and how they all come together as one big group. It's so fun, so cute, so high school in the best way. Another show based on a book that's in a high school setting is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. This show just barely came out, and I read the book last year around Halloween time because, fall is a great time for mysteries, and the books were great. I had such a fun time reading those books, and I had such a fun time picking up on all the clues and trying to figure out the mysteries myself. So I'm very much looking forward to watching A Good Girl's Guide to Murder this fall. It's about a teenage girl named Pip. There's another girl named Andy at her school that was murdered a couple of years ago, and they think that Andy's boyfriend killed her, but Pip knew the boyfriend and she doesn't think he did it. And so she's going to solve the murder for real, find out who Andy's real murderer is, and bring that to light. And you know what? She does. She goes, she's investigating, she's interviewing a bunch of people around the town at her school just to find out more details, and she does end up solving Andy's murder. And so if you like a murder mystery in the fall, like I do, check out A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. Another show that has kind of a mysterious undertone, but also has very Halloween vibes to it is Lockwood & Co. This show, very good. It's such a good show. I watched it earlier this year, but basically we're in a world where there are ghosts. They're infesting a bunch of stuff and they need to be killed, but only teenagers can see the ghosts. So you have these teenagers working as almost ghost exterminators because they're the only ones who can track down the ghosts to actually kill the ghosts. And so there's a little bit of an underlying mystery to this whole show, like I said, but with the whole ghost hunting thing, it's very Halloween appropriate. Like I said, I had so much fun watching this show. There's a lot of action in the show. It's fast-paced, it's mysterious, it's vibey, it's very vibey. Okay, since we just talked about a show with some supernatural elements to it, a little bit fantastical and not at all real, let's continue along that path and let's start talking about some fantasy related TV shows, okay? First, I'm going to talk about Shadow and Bone. This show is based on the Shadow and Bone book trilogy. I have not read Shadow and Bone, but I have read Six of Crows recently and absolutely loved it. I had so much fun with that book. For fans of that, they kind of weave together some of the plot points of Six of Crows into the Shadow and Bone TV show, so it's kind of a mix of the two book series. And yeah, basically this show takes place in a fantasy world where certain people have magical powers, and these people are called Grisha, and there are different categories of powers. There are some people who can kind of control natural elements like water and wind and stuff like that, and then there are other people who heal people. Yes, then we have people who are healers and they can kind of heal people's bodies and things like that. And so we have these individuals with magical powers, and there's a war going on. These two countries, one of them does not like the magical people. The other country is fine with the magical people. That's Shadow and Bone. Very fantastical. If you like fantasy, if you are like me and you like some whimsy and magic in the fall, this is a great option for you. It is a little bit, it has kind of a darker, grittier tone and feel to it, but it is fantasy. If you like that in the fall. Something that is also fantasy but less or less dark and gritty, I should say, is Rings of Power. This actually just, the second season of this show was just released. So if you're interested in that, there are now 2 seasons for you to watch. But this is based on The Lord of the Rings, and this is like a prequel to The Lord of the Rings. We are following primarily Elrond and Galadriel, 2 of the elves that we meet in Lord of the Rings, what they were like when they were younger, when they are like adolescent elves. As the name of the show suggests, we also learn the history of the Rings of Power, how and why they were made, and kind of how that leads to the rise of Sauron, the big bad in Lord of the Rings, and how he becomes this big bad evil force that we then have to conquer in Lord of the Rings. Moving on to yet another fantasy TV show. This is even less dark and gritty than the previous one. This one honestly is very lighthearted, very funny, and that is My Lady Jane. It is an absolute tragedy that this got canceled, but go watch season 1 of My Lady Jane before they get rid of that too, because it is so good. It is set in Tudor England, so, you know, right around the time of Henry VIII, Elizabeth I. We're talking about that time period, right? And it is about Lady Jane Grey, who, if you did not know, was Queen of England for a week before she was beheaded by Mary I. This is an alternate history, so like what would have happened if Jane Grey were not beheaded, and also if there were magic in the world at that time. It has just the right amount of magic. I love that it's kind of grounded in like a real life historical event / historical time period, but with a bit of magic. I love that. I feel like the balance between those two is just perfect. But like I said, this show is also very funny, very, very witty, because Jane, our main character, is very witty. There is a romance subplot in this show as well. So if you liked season 2 of Bridgerton and the like the tension between Anthony and Kate, like that, watch My Lady Jane, because that same progression happens in this story. They do eventually succumb to the feelings that they have for one another, and it is so good. So good. Go watch it right now. I need you to. It's so good. The next show I would like to recommend is Good Omens. This is set in a slightly more whimsical version of our world. There's not really magic in this world, but somehow it just feels a little bit more whimsical. Like there could be magic if you thought really hard about it. You know what I mean? But the premise of this show is that we have Armageddon is here. It is upon us. It is going to happen in like a week. And we have a demon and an angel who team up to save the world from Armageddon, because they've been chilling, keeping an eye on Earth for thousands of years, and they've kind of grown to love Earth and the humans that live on it. They don't want the world to end. They like the humans, and yes, humans are flawed. We are all flawed. We all have our issues. But is that really good enough cause to just completely obliterate the world in Armageddon? No. So, as I said, this angel and this demon team up to prevent Armageddon from happening. Now I'm going to talk about a series of unfortunate events, because the setting in the worlds of a series of unfortunate events is kind of similar to the setting in Good Omens. This alternate, slightly more whimsical, kind of like storybook feeling version of the world, you know? A series of unfortunate events is based on the same book series of the same name, but it is about 3 siblings, Violet, Klaus, and Sunny Baudelaire. Their parents have just died in a tragic fire, and they are now orphaned, and they get taken in by a distant relative named Count Olaf, who is just the cartooniest villain you have ever seen or experienced or read about. Just like a silly villain, silly character, yet he has very dark motives. Like, he's still very much a villain. He just goes about doing things in a very silly way. If you couldn't tell by that, this is a children's book, but this show and this book series, as I said, is about these 3 children. They experience many unfortunate events over the course of this story, yet despite all of these sad things that happen to them, they keep pushing through. They keep they persevere. They endure. They stick together and they watch out for each other. And like because of that, because they are just so determined and resilient, like there's so much hope in the show despite the unfortunate and sad things that happen to them. And that's why I love it. And I think that's why it's such a beloved book and TV series. All right. Another show that where a lot of unfortunate things happen, yet it's hopeful at the same time, is Sweet Tooth. This is based on a graphic novel with the same name, but it's set in a world where a virus wipes out a lot of the human population, and all of the babies that are born after this virus starts to spread they're like animal human hybrids. So our main character is a little boy with deer antlers, with deer ears and antlers. And so he's just trying to find his way in this crazy world. But it's like despite just the like heaviness of like, you know, having like all of these people dying from this virus, like because our main character is this young boy who's just trying to figure things out. He is very optimistic about things and like a little bit naive, a little bit. You just kind of see the world through that lens. You do kind of learn to kind of have hope despite these terrible things that have happened. And so again, I really love that theme of just there is hope even in the darkest times with the darkest situations. I love that theme. And so I think this TV show is also really great. The last show I would like to talk about that I think is fall themed and is also based on a book is Anne with an E. This is based on Anne of Green Gables. The reason I think that this is a great show for fall is just Anne as a character just loves whimsical things, just kind of believes in like whimsy. And I think that that's how I feel in the fall. It's just like everything is just a little bit magical, a little bit whimsical. And so I relate to Anne, especially in the fall, because it's just a magical time to me. And so I think this is a great fall time show. Those are all of the shows, all of the TV shows that are based on books that I think you should watch this fall. If there are any that you think that I left out, any other fall shows, whether they be based on books or not, let me know down in the comments below. Tell me what I should be watching this fall. With that said, thank you so much for watching this video, and thank you for listening to me talk about TV shows, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.